Hello everybody, thank you for tuning to my show. As you know, this is A.S. Drew. I'm here today with Mark Corin, our Minnesota State Senate. We're going to talk about gun rights today, the Second Amendment, and why it's so important. Mark, thank you for coming to my show again for this conversation.
I appreciate it.
For sure. Second Amendment, Mark, why is Second Amendment so important?
We're unique in the world, right? We have a constitution, and one of our rights within our constitution is the Second Amendment, the right to bear arms.
Right.
And it is one of the rights, I think, that protects all of our other rights, and it stops an oppressive government from controlling and overpowering its citizens.
Right.
And it, in conjunction with the people who exercise the Second Amendment and our agreement to follow in a societal set of rules under the Constitution of law and order, has allowed us to create the best country in the world in the shortest time frame, and to create economic prosperity and equality.
For sure. I totally understand what you're talking about, because I come from Ethiopia, where citizens don't have a Second Amendment right, and we all know how oppressive Ethiopia can get. And also, not just to fight the government, also, what else can the Second Amendment be good for?
Well, I think today more than ever, I'm a St. Paul guy. You live in St. Paul.
Yeah,
I used to be in St. Paul. In fact, you live close to where I left from in 2007. I think today what's really important is being able to protect and exercise your Second Amendment rights to provide safety for your family. Today, when you have St. Paul, Minneapolis deciding that they are no longer going to provide that, and one of the functions of government is safety and security, police and fire. We saw the riots and the unrest, but those are the activities that were just recent, and they're significant and really detrimental to St. Paul, Minneapolis, and the people who live there. But think about it: our governor in St. Paul, Minneapolis, the leadership, have really created a favorable operating environment for lawlessness for the last 10, 12 years. And so when you do that, you get more lawlessness. And so we've got a great divide. We've seen violent crime increase. We've seen property crimes increase dramatically. And unfortunately, I think they've coined a new term, quality of life crimes is what they call property crimes, and they steal your car. Well, that's still stealing your hard-earned labor. And that car might be your only way to get to work to provide for your family. That quality of life crime really matters. And so we need to be able to protect ourselves and our families, our homes under the Second Amendment, our businesses, our commercial trucks. Look at those things that have occurred recently that put all those things at risk. I don't think people know mostly in St. Paul, Minneapolis, that just because you live in St. Paul, Minneapolis, why is it that you don't have access to resources that allow you to exercise your Second Amendment right? There are no firearm shops in St. Paul or Minneapolis.
It is pretty sad. We drive all the way to Rappersdale.
Yes.
Blaine.
Yeah, and so I think I used to own a tattoo shop, and so I was I think it was '96 or '7. I think it was Federal Firearms that were the last the last gun shop or firearms dealer in St. Paul. It's a long time without access to be able to protect your Second Amendment rights.
And when I speak to some of the liberals that I know, they'll tell me, I'll call the police, I don't need to protect myself. But don't the police usually show up after the crime?
Yes, they don't typically show up before the crime or anticipate when it's going to happen. And so, they document crimes. And now they, in many cases, won't even come out to document a quality of life crime. But they will be there for violent crime, but that's all after the fact. And so in that time today, and especially I think, St. Paul, Minneapolis, I think there's so many 911 calls that they haven't responded to because of what the city has done or the leadership has done in their decision making. So why is it that your life is not as valuable as everywhere else in Minnesota to exercise and provide protection for your own family and your business? Think about the businesses today that were in the middle of the riots. Many of them had to make a grave choice to be able to go and protect their business with a firearm, knowing that if they had to use it, with the prosecutors in both St. Paul, Minneapolis, they probably would have had financial ruin
Right.
to try and protect their business, or allow the rioters to destroy it
Right.
and guarantee financial ruin
For sure.
for your entire family's life. So,
What do you, if the Democrats win the White House, what do you think Joe Biden and Kamala are going to do about the Second Amendment? You think they're going to disarm?
I think the thing that in the past, the Democrats that have wanted gun control, and none of their claims have ever come true about
Right.
the dangers of actually allowing our Second Amendment rights
Right.
to be practiced freely around the country. But they used to dance around, are we going to come for your weapons?
Right.
Now they're very blatant. They've told you, we're coming for your weapons. I think Kamala even said when she's president, I don't think she knows she's not running for president right now.
Right.
But that she said she will come and take the weapons on day one.
Right.
And so that won't happen in this country.
Right.
But that's who they are. And then all of the other politicians we have at the state of Minnesota, we've had mayoral candidates for the city of Minneapolis,
Right.
where we're actually today,
Right.
who've said, we don't believe our police need firearms.
Right.
I would welcome them to go police their neighborhoods without a firearm themselves.
Right. Right.
So,
Right. I can. In Ethiopia, they used peace to disarm the Oromos. As soon as they disarmed us, they were new Oromo killing. So we don't want to do that. It kind of really bothers me when Ilhan Omar says Americans get rid of your guns, because you know you don't want to be oppressed.
exactly.
Me coming from third world, especially East Africa, where citizens don't have gun rights. We got kicked out of East Africa because we don't have gun rights. And then Ilhan Omar tells us here, you don't need gun rights, just like in Somalia we didn't need it. Consequently, we have to run out of East Africa.
Yeah. And we've seen over time, right?
Right.
The history of man and oppressive governments. The
Right.
first step is restriction and removal of firearms. And that we will not allow.
Right.
And our
For sure.
Constitution provides that right. Many of the other countries don't have that constitutional right. They did it under other false pretenses, and which has
Right.
been, I think that's been the Democrats' platform here,
Right.
under false pretenses. And so,
Right.
in fact, everywhere that where their practice in those, I provide my own protection, as
Right.
many of us do, and provide my safety and security, especially in this role as well. But I believe the statistics show that responsible gun owners are the safest population
Oh, yeah.
by 12 times.
Not just that, just look at throughout the world, countries that allow their citizens to have gun rights
Yes,
are the safest countries,
yes,
economically doing way better than other countries where citizens are oppressed. And it's just common sense. Just think about comparing a man that has a gun and the man that doesn't have a gun.
yeah, and the gun is just not the fact of a gun, right?
Right.
Is what it does is it provides you the ability to protect yourself
Right,
and allows that you will not be oppressed.
right,
And your government's not going to overreach beyond its rights or its role in your
Right.
life, and so it prevents that
Right.
massive oppressive government. Now, does that mean we have a government free of oppression? No,
No.
but it is the right that does protect all other rights,
Right.
and it's critical. And again, with the St. Paul, Minneapolis elected leadership that have said that we just don't think your life is valuable enough.
right,
I think most of them have armed protection themselves. They just don't believe their citizens should have that. And
Right.
so what we're seeing, I live in a little rural area, a little bit more rural. I moved out in 2007 from St. Paul. All of our firearm shops are very, very busy.
Right.
And it's everybody coming from the city. Many of Democrats, many liberals that
Right.
have come out. Not only are they buying weapons to protect themselves,
right,
they're signing up, which we think everybody should. Responsible gun ownership requires training, so
Right.
you know what you're doing.
right,
Those that choose to have a carry permit,
right,
as I do, to make sure you know what the obligation is, and you have a
Right.
great obligation in no one ever
Right.
should fire or use that weapon unless it's truly life or death. But they are signing up for the
Right.
safety and the training and for their permits.
right,
And because they do believe now
Right.
that their government's directly telling them, we are not going to protect you.
Right.
And so you have to protect yourself. And so
Right.
it's been I think I'm a Republican conservative. And so I think it's set back in
Right.
Minnesota, the anti-gun movement,
Right.
probably a decade.
Right.
And I'm very happy about that.
For sure, for sure. Just last week I went to the gun range and they can only sell $1 at a time.
Yes.
Bullets are running out. Every time Joe Biden and the Democrats say something bad
Yeah.
about Americans' right, the people take their rights more seriously. And I wish that people come from third world like I am, they all take this thing seriously. Otherwise, third world will never get out of that third world status as long as people are not taking responsibility to themselves and they're expecting this big government to take responsibility for them.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So 2020, folks, you guys got to get out and vote. Really vote for freedom, especially if you come from third world.
Mhm.
You know the government is the problem, it's not the solution. Especially people from third world. We should learn that by now. And I really do appreciate it, all of you, for tuning into this video.
I appreciate the opportunity.
For sure, for sure. Victory for the Republicans 2020. Victory for the Republicans means victory for you. Thank you. Peace.